From the moment Bella Swan set foot in Forks, her fate was sealed. Not by chance, not by love at first sight, but by a complex web of manipulation disguised as fascination. The story everyone believed they saw, the tale of a noble vampire family fighting against their nature to protect a mere human, was nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. The Cullens never truly cared about Bella, not as a person, not as someone with her own thoughts, fears, and desires. To them, Bella was nothing more than an anomaly, a curiosity, a pawn on a chessboard far bigger than she could ever comprehend. Edward Cullen was the first to notice her existence, and with it, the first to become obsessed. But what drew Edward in was not her personality or her soul, it was the inexplicable void of her mind. The silence where her thoughts should have been. For a predator like him, accustomed to hearing the darkest secrets of those around him, Bella was a living anomaly, a puzzle he could not solve. At first, this disturbed him. His mind, sharpened like a blade after decades of listening to others, could not accept the idea of a human whose thoughts eluded him. He had no control over her. He could not anticipate her reactions, could not dissect her emotions as easily as he did with everyone else. And Edward, though no one dared to admit it, had a compulsive need for control. Because, at his core, Edward was not the tortured romantic he pretended to be. He was a predator, one who had spent too long trying to convince himself that he wasn't. His self-discipline and morality were nothing more than a golden cage he had built to contain his true nature. Bella awakened in him an instinct he had spent a century suppressing. Not love, not tenderness, not a genuine desire to protect her. Something much more primal, hunger. Not just in the literal sense, though her blood sang to him in a way no other humans ever had, but also a hunger for possession. An obsession born from the need to understand her, to dissect her, to figure out why her mind was a mystery to him when all others were an open book. And the rest of the Cullens knew it, and they did nothing. Because to them, Bella was an experiment, an opportunity to test their own convictions. Carlyle, the eternal moralist, saw her as a test. If Edward could love a human without killing her, if he could resist the ultimate temptation, then the Cullens' philosophy of a civilized life would be validated. He did not see Bella as a person, but as a symbol, a necessary sacrifice in his crusade to redeem their kind. Esme, the matriarch of the family, welcomed her with warmth, but not out of genuine love. Esme did not have a selfless affection for Bella. What she longed for was the idea of a perfect home, of a harmonious family, and if Bella fit into that image, then she was welcome. But if she didn't, if she shattered the fragile illusion of peace in which Esme had taken refuge, then her fate did not matter. Alice, the seer, accepted Bella without question. But not because she cared. She did so because she had already seen her in the future. Because Bella, in some way, was part of the story Alice had already accepted as inevitable. To her, free will did not exist, only what was meant to happen mattered. Jasper, on the other hand, tolerated her simply because he had no choice. To him, Bella was a constant reminder of his own weakness. Every time she entered a room, his thirst roared inside him. Every time she spoke, every time she laughed, every time she bled from a minor cut, Jasper battled the part of himself that he could never change. And then there was Rosalie. Rosalie never bothered to pretend. From the beginning, she made it clear that she despised Bella, but not out of jealousy or personal resentment. What enraged her was Bella's stupidity, her lack of gratitude for the human life that Rosalie would never get back. Bella had everything Rosalie had lost, and she was willing to throw it all away for a love she didn't even understand. And Emmett, well, Emmett was never more than a spectator. He laughed, he mocked, but he never intervened. Because in the end, Bella didn't matter to him, no more than a fleeting source of amusement. The Cullens were never her family. They were never her protectors. They were her jailers. From the moment Edward decided Bella belonged to him, her life was no longer her own. She could not see who she wanted. She could not speak to whomever she pleased. She could not make decisions without Edward or Alice anticipating them before she could even consider them herself. Her freedom became a mirage, a labyrinth with invisible walls designed to keep her in place while making her believe she was still in control. Even when Edward left her, it was not for her well-being. It was not out of love. It was because he could not bear the thought of being the monster who would devour her. He left for himself, to protect his morality, not to protect her. And when Bella found solace in Jacob, the Cullens saw him as a threat, not because they feared for her safety, but because it meant she was escaping their influence. So they took her back, not because they loved her, but because they were never willing to let her go. And in the end, when Bella had to choose between her humanity and her love for Edward, it was not a choice at all. It never was. From the beginning, her fate was written. Not by love, but by obsession. Not by compassion, but by possession. Bella Swan never had a choice, because the Cullens never truly cared about her. Not about her. Not about any human. And they never will.